The Emancipation Proclamation, a pivotal moment in American history. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued by President Abraham Lincoln on January 1, 1863, is one of the most significant documents in American history. This executive order declared the freedom of enslaved individuals in Confederate-held territory during the American Civil War. In this comprehensive article, we will explore the historical context, content, impact, and legacy of the Emancipation Proclamation, highlighting its pivotal role in the struggle for emancipation and civil rights in the United States. The historical context. Before delving into the Emancipation Proclamation itself, it is essential to understand the historical backdrop against which this landmark document emerged. Slavery was deeply entrenched in the United States for centuries, with millions of Africans forcibly brought to American shores to toil under brutal conditions. By the mid-19th century, the nation was sharply divided over the issue of slavery, leading to regional tensions and ultimately, the outbreak of the Civil War. The American Civil War. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, erupted primarily due to conflicts over slavery, states' rights, and regional differences. The Southern states, known as the Confederacy, sought to preserve slavery and secede from the Union. The Northern states, or the Union, were committed to preserving the United States as a single nation and gradually ending slavery. As the Civil War raged on, President Abraham Lincoln faced a moral and strategic dilemma regarding the issue of slavery. Balancing competing interests. Lincoln recognized the need to balance the preservation of the Union with the moral imperative of ending slavery. His primary goal at the outset of the war was to maintain the Union, and he was initially cautious about adopting measures that might push border states further toward the Confederacy. However, as the war dragged on and the Confederacy continued to resist, Lincoln's priorities evolved. He came to see emancipation as a means of undermining the Confederacy's labor force and bolstering the Union's cause. Additionally, growing pressure from abolitionists and enslaved individuals themselves influenced his stance. The Emancipation Proclamation's content. On September 22, 1862, following the Union victory at the Battle of Antietam, President Lincoln issued a preliminary version of the Emancipation Proclamation. The final version, signed on January 1, 1863, contained several key elements. The Emancipation Proclamation applied only to Confederate-held territory, exempting areas under Union control. It specified that enslaved individuals in these Confederate regions were, thenceforward, and forever free. Lincoln framed the proclamation as a wartime measure, justifying it on the grounds of military necessity. By declaring enslaved individuals in Confederate territory as free, it was intended to weaken the Confederacy's economic and labor foundation. Limited practical impact. While a momentous step, the proclamation had limitations. It did not instantly free all enslaved individuals. Their actual freedom depended on the advance of Union forces into Confederate territory. Additionally, it did not address slavery in border states loyal to the Union. Impact and significance. The Emancipation Proclamation had profound and far-reaching consequences for the course of the Civil War and the broader struggle for civil rights in the United States. Moral and ideological turning point. The proclamation represented a moral and ideological turning point in the Civil War. It transformed the conflict into a struggle not only to preserve the Union but also to end slavery. Recruitment of African American troops. The proclamation opened the door for the recruitment of African American troops into the Union Army. These, United States Colored Troops, USCT, played a vital role in the Union's ultimate victory. Internationally, the Emancipation Proclamation garnered attention and support from abolitionists and governments sympathetic to the Union cause. It framed the conflict as a battle against slavery, garnering international anti-slavery sentiment. Post-war legal framework. After the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation laid the groundwork for the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Ratified in 1865, the amendment abolished slavery throughout the country. The Emancipation Proclamation's principles of freedom and equality resonated in later civil rights movements, including the struggle for African American civil rights in the 20th century. While the Emancipation Proclamation was a monumental step toward freedom, the struggle for civil rights and equality in the United States was far from over. The post-war Reconstruction era aimed to secure civil rights for newly freed individuals. Amendments to the Constitution, such as the 14th and 15th Amendments, sought to guarantee equal protection under the law and voting rights, respectively. Despite these advances, the late 19th and early 20th centuries witnessed the rise of Jim Crow laws, institutionalized segregation, and racial discrimination in the South. The mid-20th century saw the civil rights movement, a mass mobilization against racial segregation and discrimination. Iconic figures like Martin Luther King Jr. advocated for equality, leading to legislative changes such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued amid the crucible of the American Civil War, remains a beacon of hope and a symbol of the ongoing struggle for freedom and civil rights. While it did not instantly eradicate slavery or end racial discrimination, it marked a pivotal moment in American history when the nation began to confront its original sin. The legacy of the proclamation endures in the ongoing pursuit of equality and justice for all.